Welcome back to another episode of Primetime. I've got Nick beside me. We've been around the world the last few months. We've been Saudi Arabia. We just come back from Miami, UFC 299. Immediate reactions from 299.
I was very surprised by the Latino turnout for Chito Vera.
I loved him.
I didn't really know much about him before this weekend, but having seen the Latino presence, and I think he's actually more popular than Sugar Sean. They said it was one of the most sold out UFC pay-per-views, and that was because of Chito Vera. It wasn't because of Sugar Sean O'Malley. So I was very surprised.
Miami showed up for sure. I mean, look, Chito, he got absolutely bashed.
Oh, mate.
That cheek shot where he copped the knee to the face, and he's still chirping on Twitter, still going. Like he still has a lot of fight.
He's going against Sandhagen.
Yeah.
So look, I mean, as much as he may have lost the fight, he elevated his profile, and being in Miami, he elevated into like a near celebrity. And if he has another fight now, it just carries over.
Okay, fan question from the weekend: is Sugar Sean the biggest star in the UFC?
No, he's not. I think the weekend kind of proved that he's not. He was in a main event fight, and the guy that he was versing is not a title holder, not a previous main eventer, and he was the biggest superstar.
I also feel like Dustin Poirier went more viral after UFC 299. Everyone was more, encouraged by him. What's he going to do next? Is he going to fight Islam? Many people kind of forgotten about Sugar Sean.
And there's been accusations before by Aljamain that Sugar Sean doesn't sell. There's been pay-per-view numbers and YouTube social media numbers that show he doesn't get as many clicks. As much as he likes to sell himself as a superstar, he's just not that big.
And like you saw it in the press conference, you saw it in the weigh-ins. I know it was Cheeto's backyard in Miami, a lot of, Ecuadorians rocking up, a lot of Hispanics, but he just couldn't get the crowd going. He thought it was going to be at least 50-50, Sugar Sean.
Yeah.
And mind you, I've got to give him his respect. When we interviewed him, he does media, he does it well, he gives everyone the time of day, but I just don't think he has that Conor McGregor star power level
He's
yet.
a star.
He's a star.
Just not the biggest superstar.
He's also entertaining too, the way he talks and the way he talks with media and sells his fights, the way he acts, the pink shorts, going straight to the club after the fight. But he's just not that superstar level yet.
I looked into it by social media following, Instagram following. He's not even in the top 5. There's Adesanya, Kamaru Usman, Khabib and Conor McGregor. They're your ultra superstars, and McGregor's still listed as an active fighter, so he's the biggest superstar.
Well, something that happened this past week in the NRL, while we were away, we had to keep up with it overseas. Spencer Leniu got given 8 weeks suspension, for calling Ezra Mann a monkey. Now, Olakawatu has come out and backed Spencer Leniu, but the majority of the NRL, majority of current players, even former players, have come out and supported Ezra Mann and said that was enough. I mean, Jonathan Thurston was crying on TV and said it should have been more. He was asking for 12 weeks. Should have been a blanket 12 weeks. Is 8 weeks too much?
I personally think it's too much because he's come out, he's pleaded guilty to it. He said, I did say it on the field. And he said, but I didn't mean it in a racist way. Now, if you're going to take that as his truth, then can you really suspend him for 8 weeks?
Almost 1/3 of the season.
That's a lot of the season. He's just signed there. And it sets a harsh precedence for if someone makes a complaint about someone on the field, will they be suspended?
I just want to know when all of a sudden it became, let's give it an 8 weeks. Because if you look at past instances, there was the Paul Gallen incident, there was the Fletcher incident. They've all been fines. Why the sudden, let's give it eight weeks now? It doesn't really make sense. Also, he acknowledged that, and he didn't come out publicly and say it in the judiciary, but he was responding to someone calling him something. So, I mean, it's give and take, but I think 8 weeks is a bit too much.
Again, it's just the society we live in. Something like that, a racial slur, is going to be given a harsh penalty. That's, your fault for saying it on the field. You got to, you make your bed, you got to sleep in it. But again, for me personally, wouldn't give him 8 weeks, but I don't control that. So what can we do?
Jason Tamalolo only played 21 minutes last week.
So stupid.
Is he on the outer at the North Queensland Cowboys? Because there's always been talks that the coach, Todd Payten, hasn't really liked him, giving him limited minutes. Is this a message, just get out of North Queensland?
Well, you look at the preseason, get stripped of his captaincy. There's strike number 1.
Yep.
Round 1 of the season, you play 21 minutes. Your best $1 million forward.
One of the most senior players.
One of the more senior players plays 21 minutes. That's strike 2. I think you're on the outer. Next thing that's going to come out, either he's been dropped from the team or he's said something that's going to force him to miss a week. And then you know what? He's coming to the Bulldogs. I'm picking it now. The Bulldogs need forwards.
I don't know if he's
There's been rumours already. They need forwards. Who else are they going to sign?
It's a match made in heaven, really.
Because if he's on the outer at the Cowboys,
when's his 10-year contract come to an end? I think it's 2027.
I think
it's 27.
Well, he won the Dally M, 2016 or 2015?
I believe it's 2027.
He would have signed the 10-year straight after that.
If the Bulldogs can get him for somewhere between the $600,000, $700,000 mark, and he's your front rower, it's a match made in heaven for the Bulldogs. They desperately need him. They need some go forward, but it'd be a loss. They're not utilising him to get the best out of Tamalolo.
Well, I didn't get to watch the game last week, but they did win. So maybe it was just because they had the lead and they didn't really need to risk injuring him. I don't know, maybe they're taking that route.
Yep.
But to not play your best forward, who was your previous captain, more than 21 minutes, seems like a stupid decision.
All right, talking about injuries, Cam Munster, slip and fall in the shower, groin injury.
I thought he was joking.
They don't know when he's going to come back. They can't put their finger on it, literally can't put their finger on it, what's wrong with his groin. So if Munster doesn't return back timely for the Melbourne Storm, it definitely disrupts their season. But if no Munster this season for the Melbourne Storm, are they in trouble?
Well, they just beat the reigning premiers 8-0 without Munster.
Shit game.
Without Munster. So if that's a sign, they don't need him to make the 8.
I feel like these round 1-2 games, they all mean nothing. People are getting a feel of the season. They're getting their match fitness back up. Look at the Dragons. They look like a completely different team from last year, but they do this every year where they win 5 or 6 games and then the whole season goes down the toilet. You can't really judge a team by how they go in the first few rounds. In saying that, Melbourne are always a top 8 team. Even without Munster, they're a top 8 team. I'll say that.
Just on coaching.
Yeah.
Coaching, discipline, great team culture. They're never going to miss out on the top 8. If Craig Bellamy's there, I'd put my life savings on them making the 8. If Cam Munster plays, they're a lock for a top 4. That's how the mathematics works.
Now, looking at the EPL.
Arsenal, back to the top of the table, baby. Let's go. Man City, Liverpool did draw. Was a very nice result for Arsenal fans. I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought Man City is going to hit that time of the season where they're just going to go win 17 games in a row.
But can Arsenal bottle it from here? They've done it before.
You'd hope not. They have done it before. Listen, if you were to go to any manager in the EPL and say, with 10 games remaining, you're going to be top of the table by 1 point, you control your own destiny, you win 10 games, you win the competition. You win the Premier League. So really, if they do lose it from here, yes, they did bottle the league, because if you're the front runner at this point and you do lose, that's choking. That's the definition of choking.
That's what choking is, yeah.
But I mean, like...
I feel like there's a curse on him. Like, you tell me there's 10 games out and you don't think the manager's going to tell them that? I feel like that's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure.
Especially with all the past history of the last few seasons, a lot of pressure.
The only problem is they're still alive in the Champions League. So they've got to manage expectations of both competitions. They're going to have double the games, down the back end of the season.
Okay, what are you predicting for the last 10 games?
For the last 10 games, I predict that they do hold on, because Man City, as much as they've had Haaland and De Bruyne have injuries, they're back now as well. I just don't think they're as hungry and motivated to win the Premier League. They're going to focus on the Champions League. Okay. They're still alive in that. Arsenal, I think they're going to put more emphasis on the Premier League. They're going to let the Champions League go because they know they don't have the team to win it. It's unfortunate, just the reality. Yep. But if you're a betting man, put your money on Arsenal because they're more motivated to win it. Arteta wants the Premier League. He's mentioned it before. Put your money on Arsenal.
Okay, well, something that happened while we were at UFC 299 was Francis Ngannou versus Anthony Joshua. Everyone saw brutal knockout, second round. He looked like he didn't belong in the boxing ring.
That's because he doesn't.
Stark contrast from when he first faced Tyson Fury. Everyone was jumping on the bandwagon. This guy's the next best boxer. This shows you MMA people can compete in the boxing ring. 6 months down the track, there's no way they can be in the same ring. What he did to Tyson Fury was a fluke. Did you see the reaction on Tyson Fury's face?
Do you think that this is more of a slide on Tyson Fury, or is it maybe Tyson Fury didn't take the fight seriously, Anthony Joshua did?
I think it looks like Tyson Fury didn't care about this fight. He said, I could beat this bloke in my sleep, which he did.
He did get knocked down, though. He
got knocked down, I understand that, but he just didn't take the fight seriously. When you saw a prepared boxer in unbelievable shape like Anthony Joshua, he brutalized him. And that begs the question now, well, what does Francis Ngannou do next?
Hopefully not a boxing match.
It definitely won't be a boxing match.
I think his boxing career is over.
He's got to finally fight in the PFL.
Well, he's signed to them. He's an MMA fighter. PFL have signed him on as their marquee athlete.
It's also bought by Saudi Arabia now as well, the PFL.
So I'm pretty sure his next fight will be in the PFL. Whether he goes straight into a championship match or it's just a warm-up match for a title, his next match is going to be in the PFL. But I want to ask you the question, has this set back MMA boxing another 30 years? Because if you look at the people that have transitioned over now.
But has there been an MMA fighter that has successfully made the transition? Look at it.
McGregor, lost. Tyron Woodley, lost. Nate Diaz, lost. Who was I think Ben Askren lost to Jake Paul as well.
I mean, you can't really count the Paul fights. But I'm saying, even Francis Ngannou is 0-2. So it's just, there's too much of a skill difference between the hands. When you're relying solely on your hands for boxing.
He's not conditioned
as a combat sport. When MMA fighters have to worry about wrestling, jiu-jitsu, kicking, then boxing as well as striking, It's too much of a difference.
The funny thing was, what I found hilarious was Dana White's smile on his face. He couldn't.
He wanted to be asked the question.
He couldn't contain himself in that post-match press
Tried to
conference.
make out, I didn't watch the fight. I saw it on social media. You saw it.
Oh, but he's not a boxer. Like I expect this. Listen, mate, you were praying for his death. You were death riding the whole boxing situation because after he beat Fury or after he lost to Fury, they were saying, "Oh, look, he just won $20 million. He's got another $20 million fight. It's the best move of his career." It still is.
He had to swallow his pride as well. He was very disappointed. But does that set up Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua? Is that ever going to happen?
I presume that after Usyk fights Tyson Fury is going to retire. After watching Anthony Joshua, he's a lot more explosive, he's a lot younger. Why would Tyson Fury want to risk it? Let him beat Usyk in May, I think he's fighting in Saudi Arabia. Once he beats him, he's just going to retire and call it a day. The guy's nearly 40-something years old.
Okay.
He's not an athlete anymore. He doesn't want to train. He's made his millions. 2 Saudi Arabian fights, 3 Saudi Arabia fights now. That's enough money to retire.
Call it a day. Call it a day. Looking at basketball, Ben Simmons has just had successful surgery on his back. He's looking to be right by the start of next preseason. So Ben Simmons is injured.
Out for the season again.
Very unfortunate, but for someone of his potential to be missing out on this much, the amount of money he's collecting is ridiculous.
Well, he's gotten a contract off reputation. He was considered the next Magic Johnson in his rookie year. I mean, I know he came a year later than what he actually got drafted, but when he was playing his rookie year, he was called the next Magic Johnson. He was passing. He was got a 6'10" point guard. He could do whatever he wanted.
He was finishing in the paint.
He was doing everything. He could shoot somewhat.
This is a contract breakdown of his last 4 seasons, right? 21-22 NBA season, he was paid $33 million.
Wow.
Sorry, he played 0 games that season, right? 22-23 season, he played 42 games, $35.4 million.
Just over half.
23-24 season, 17 games, $37.9 million. This is increasing over time.
Jeez.
Now, this year, he's owed $40.3 million.
Jeez. $40 million.
He's owed $40 million.
That's absurd.
And he's missing the back end of the season.
But that's the NBA.
How many games did he play this season?
I think he played, 17 to... I don't know. He barely played anything, missed the start of the season, and it just shows you the NBA money is different. If you can get a guaranteed NBA contract, you're laughing. You don't have to do anything. You literally could sit out the whole season with an injury, and people have called into question his back injury, whether it's real or not.
It's real. If you're having surgery, if you're having microscopic surgery or whatever it was I read on Twitter, it's legit. He had to get for back pain alleviation.
But literally a 4-year contract, what sounds like $120 million, and he's played barely, a third of the contract, and he's getting paid the whole amount. You're laughing. You're set up for life then.
He is set up for life. He doesn't get a contract like this going forward. He's a 6th man at best for a team.
Look,
going forward.
When he played this year, he did look good in patches of form, but he just never played more than, 3-4 consecutive games in a row. And it's sad to see. I think this surgery now rules him out of the Olympics, even though he probably didn't want to play for Australia anyways. But it's just sad. Like, someone with his potential, he was signed on the potential
I'd kill for his genetics.
Oh, mate.
Yeah.
Like, Ben, I mean, I hope all goes well with you.
I hope it goes well as well, yeah.
But, you're never getting that contract again. That will go down as one of the worst contracts in NBA. I know they talk about Luol Deng, his contract. There's some baseball contracts that are getting paid till 2027. But Ben Simmons' contract, for the amount that he's earning, for the amount that he's played, it's one of the biggest bust contracts in the history of NBA.
Okay, well, talking about money and waste of money, let's look at our top 5 this week. Make sure you subscribe to @Kairouz Bros on YouTube. Our top 5 this week is top 5 biggest losses from Drake. Okay? Biggest gambling losses. I don't know if we can say that for the socials clip, but top 5 biggest Drake losses. Okay, he's known to spend some money. Okay, on stake, he puts his bet slips up online. But these are his top 5 losses, starting with number 5, putting $400,000 on Jake Paul to beat Tommy Fury.
Okay.
He was set to win $1.4 million from it.
Look, that one, I kind of don't blame him because Jake Paul has been known to rig fights. Tommy Fury wasn't the most seasoned boxer at the time. He probably was the only real boxer that Jake had fought. But again, the Drake curse was real because Jake Paul lost his one and only fight.
Mind you, he's won some money. Don't get me wrong. He's won some on combat sports. But to bet that amount of money on a YouTube boxer, not the smartest investment, Drizzy.
Not at all. Because especially Jake Paul can rig it, but that one, I'm sorry, the Drake curse just struck again. At number 4, putting $615,000 on Francis Ngannou to beat Anthony Joshua. Now, again, Drake, why are you backing an MMA fighter against a boxer? with the curse already being there, you basically dug the grave for Francis Ngannou.
Well, he must have been watching the Tyson Fury fight and got a bit excited.
Got carried away.
He got carried away and put $615,000 on Francis. Round 2, he didn't even get excitement out of that fight. That was it was round 2 and he was done.
If you put that bet on, then watch round 1, you shit yourself. Then
Yeah.
after round 2, you're like, okay, that's the biggest waste of money in my life. He's put
Yeah.
some bad bets on, but that may be the worst.
It's a quick way to lose $615,000. Number 3, Drake put $700,000 on Sean Strickland to beat Dracus du Plessis at UFC 297. Now, he must be a big Sean Strickland fan. I wouldn't have picked that from Drizzy.
Well, he's in Canada. I mean, so he's from Canada.
Yeah.
The main event was in Canada. Maybe he just thought, okay, I'll back the American. I don't really like the South Africans. Don't really know much about them.
Yeah.
But Sean Strickland was the champion. He was the favourite.
If I was Drake, he was set to win $1.4 million from that. I would feel a bit robbed because some people think Sean Strickland won that fight.
Well, in those situations where it is a tight finish and someone does lose in a tight decision, do you feel robbed? Is there like some sort of, consolation from the betting platform, say, hey, we'll give it back as a bonus bet or something?
I have no idea. But the thing is, he lost. He can try and avenge it when Sean Strickland eventually gets that rematch. But unfortunate loss again. He loves his UFC, he loves his boxing. But that was another big Drake loss.
That's a lot of money on a UFC fight. At number 2, the World Cup final, Argentina versus France. He put $1 million on Argentina to win this game, to win $2.75 million.
And to be fair, Drake got this one right. But when he bet on the game, it was only up until the 90 minutes. And at 90 minutes, it was a draw.
So really, in terminology of gambling, he lost the bet. He may have won it by picking the correct team to win the entirety of the game, but for betting purposes, the game finishes at 90 minutes.
Even though Argentina won in penalties, Drake lost his bet because his bet was only up until 90 minutes. At 90 minutes, it was a draw.
That's a bad beat. Drake, you've had some bad losses. I'm not going to say this is a bad bet because they did win the game.
He picked the right team. He backed Lionel Messi. He picked the right team. Again, just a bad beat from Drake. It was unfortunate, and that was one of his biggest ones at $1 million.
Personally, I've gambled on football, soccer before, and I've thought my bet has won. I've been refreshing my account at the end of the game. Drake must have been doing the same thing. He must have refreshed his account saying, hey, Argentina won. What the fuck's going on? But unfortunately for Drake, that's gambling for you.
Only to be topped by number 1, Drake's biggest gambling loss is putting $2 million on Israel Adesanya at UFC 281 on Adesanya to beat Pereira.
Another rough loss. I think with this bet, with the history that Adesanya and Pereira had going into this fight, Pereira had gotten the better of him already. Why would you back Adesanya for?
This was the 3rd time they faced, I believe.
And this, for you to put your biggest bet you've ever put on in your life, you're putting your money on Adesanya? Really, Drake?
If he had won, he would have won $2.9 million. But Patain knocked out Israel Adesanya. Very rough for Drake. $2 million down the drain like that. But I'm sure that's just another single. Drake puts out another single, he can put another bet out like that.
I'm just saying, Drake, as much as you probably love the UFC, it's costing you too much money. You could feed a whole town in Africa with that kind of money.
Yeah.
Stop wasting your money on stupid gambling.
Now, to be fair, he's won money on Paddy Pimblett, Molly Meatball. He's had some good UFC bets. That's got to be one of the worst ones. You do the form in that, you see that Israel Adesanya has lost previously to Pereira. Stupid bet.
Look, hindsight's
stupid.
20.
No, stupid bet in my book.
2020. Adesanya was the champion,
Listen,
one of the greatest in that division of all
made,
time.
I think he made money on the rematch, but very stupid $2 million bet.
I mean, Drake, seriously, just stop gambling. I think it's enough. Are these bets even real? Are stake funding these bets just, whatever you lose?
I don't know if we're even allowed to say stake online anymore, but I guess we'll leave it at that. That's our top 5 of the week. Top 5 biggest Drake losses. Make sure you subscribe to @Kairouz Bros on YouTube. But let's look at UFC. UFC 300. It's going to be one of the most stacked cards. 299 was big. 298 was big. But this card is just stacked.
It's stacked. It's got great middle talent, but I still am going to die on the hill that it misses the main event that was promised.
I honestly think the most hyped fight for the event is the BMF title fight.
Yeah, Gaethje Holloway is actually going to be a great fight.
Islam came out and criticised it and said, listen, the belt means nothing. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of a fight. What's the point of this fight?
Listen, I'm sick of hearing from Islam. Did you hear him come out this morning and say...
Well, I
he
feel
was
sorry for him.
He came out and said he was offered Leon Edwards for UFC 300, but didn't want to fight because it was Ramadan. Now, I respect your religion, and I respect your abstaining from food and your fasting and all that, but why are you teasing us by saying that you were offered the fight? Just let me know that he didn't even offer it to you. At least, why would you tease me thinking that could have been the main event?
Well, also to respect to Islam, he wants to fight. He actually called out Dustin Poirier and said, let's fight in June. Let's make something happen.
Yeah, he wants to fight Poirier because we know he'll win.
Well, the thing is, he's just been inactive as a champion. His last 2 title fights have been against Volkanovski. He just wants to fight. It's rough that 300s during Ramadan. right? But what can you do? I think the next move for him is he faces the winner of this BMF title fight.
No. He's scheduled to fight either Gaethje or the winner of Oliveira's Sarukian. But it just doesn't line up because they're fighting now. If he likely fights in June against anybody, either someone's going to have a quick turnaround or there's going to be a longer layoff now from the fighters that fight at 300 to the next pay-per-view at the end of the year. So someone's going to have a short turnaround or a long turnaround, and there's not going to be a title fight. And I think the way it is now is Islam Makhachev only fights in Abu Dhabi or he only fights in Saudi Arabia. And you know what? He's the champion. He can dictate those terms.
What about this one? Colby Covington calls out Ian Gary. Now, it's not going to be UFC 300, but we're looking down the line. He put out a scathing Instagram post that was saying, I will fight you on 3 stipulations. You turn off your comments. Your wife watches me. And a few others. It was pretty funny. I'm not going to lie. Colby Covington versus Ian Gary. Firstly, who do you support in that? Because they're both one of the most hated people in their divisions right now. Also, when does it happen?
Ian Gary's a cuck. I'm not going to say I'm supporting Ian Gary. As much as Colby Covington was extremely disappointing in that last main event, I still think he's entertaining. And I still think he knows how to sell a fight. And they've called each other out now. So the UFC fight is going to happen.
Ian wants it to happen. He wants it to be on the undercard of Conor McGregor, probably the co-main event, International Fight Week, Chandler versus McGregor, Ian Gary versus Colby Covington, American versus Irish. It's meant to be.
I can understand it's meant to be, but I think it's all talk from Ian Gary. Why would you want for that criticism and those insults to be hurled across at you? Mate, just for the sake of your family.
Pay-per-view numbers. You saw what Dylan Dennis did to Logan Paul. You could call me whatever you want. You could call my wife a cuck. You can call me a sand monkey. I wouldn't cry about it. But if it sells, it sells.
I know, but
it's money.
The same way that Ian Gary pulled out of the last fight in Vegas that Colby Covington was on.
Hey, he was sick. He was sick.
He doesn't want to be anywhere
That's what he was saying. He was
Colby
sick.
Covington. He doesn't want to be anywhere near someone that's going to be hurling out insults
if
about him because he can't handle it.
If UFC want pay-per-view numbers and cash, Colby Covington versus Ian Gary is the money fight. Put it on International Fight Week. But speaking of Conor McGregor, does he even fight at International Fight Week? There's videos of him going around online. He looks like he's coked out of his mind. You've never seen a bloke more energetic. He's on the red carpet for Roadhouse, the new movie. People are saying, just look at the state of him. There's no way he's coming back to fight.
He can do whatever he wants, okay? Cocaine is a stimulant. It's not something that's going
to
be dragging him down.
He wants to have at least 2 fights this year. I didn't even see him getting 1 fight.
It really depends on whether he actually needs to fight. Like, is he in fighting shape? Potentially. And Dana White said he's too expensive. He's got no time for this. But maybe he is just too expensive. He maybe has a price tag that Dana's not willing to pay.
Yeah.
And if you really look at McGregor, he'll have 1 more fight and probably retire. He doesn't need the money. This weekend, he called out KSI. He said, yeah, I'll do a YouTube boxing fight against KSI. That's the only one I'd probably take right now. So MMA fight or YouTube boxing, if I'm him, I'm taking the YouTube boxing.
He's taking the dollar signs.
Same money, probably an easier W. Why wouldn't you take that?
Yeah, no. I'm looking forward to it nonetheless. They got a lot of things planned. UFC Spheres down the line, International Fight Weeks down the line. You got UFC going to Brazil as well. A lot happening down the pipeline. We will most likely be at UFC 300 as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But we also have WrestleMania coming up.
The biggest WrestleMania of all time. WrestleMania 40. The final main events are now in place. WrestleMania Night 1, it's going to be the tag team match. Roman and Rock, the Bloodline, up against Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. And then on Night 2, it's going to be Roman versus Cody Rhodes. Will he finish the story? God, I hope not.
Will Seth Rollins turn on Cody Rhodes? Will The Rock turn on Roman Reigns? There's a lot of unanswered questions. And this is why WWE, it's the most exciting time to be a wrestling fan again. Has The Rock made WWE great again? Has the heel Rock made WWE great again?
Yes. SmackDown has just sold out now for the 8th consecutive week.
Yeah.
The Rock draws numbers. And if he's going to appear more consistently, maybe even after WrestleMania, it's just going to draw eyes to the product. Heel Rock is bringing that kind of attitude era back towards, like,
he's calling out Cody Crybaby fans. He's calling people in Phoenix crackheads. He's bringing out insults. I mean, Roman Reigns used cross-dresser the other day on a PG television show.
I love to hear it.
Yeah.
It just shows you that as much as society's trending another way, wrestling can still take you back to where it's good. Back to where, the nostalgia hits, where it is entertaining and it is fun. It just, the way WWE's going right now, it's going to just be back towards the Attitude Era.
Okay, what do you think happens? Night 1 and Night 2?
On Night 1, I'm projecting the Bloodline wins. That's just so they can set up a main event.
And then it's Bloodline rules.
Bloodline rules in the main event. But I do predict The Rock and the Bloodline turn on Roman Reigns to finish the night. It's not too soon because The Rock's going to be busy. Roman's title reign needs to come to an end. They've teased for months. Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, they've turned on Roman before. Solo's the only one that hasn't done it. He'll probably join the group. They'll drift off and do their own thing with The Rock. Roman will take some time off and then come back maybe for SummerSlam.
I think the way it's going to go, I think the Bloodline wins night 1. It's Bloodline rules night 2. But Cody Rhodes, against all adversity, finally finishes his story. There's going to be interferences from The Rock, but he's going to get back up from Jey Uso, from Seth Rollins, all these people that have gone against the Bloodline and Roman Reigns. And finally, it's going to be Cody Rhodes finishes the story. If they don't do it now, he'll never finish the story. I'm sorry, they're not going another Mania doing this. This is his last opportunity to do it. And I think that's the way it goes. I think they're going to build up The Rock versus Roman Reigns for WrestleMania 41. It's a wasted opportunity to just turn on him now and do it for SummerSlam. It's not worth it.
I mean, I kind of want Cody Rhodes to win now just so I can see him stop crying. It's enough.
Yeah, it's enough of the tears. I get it. Dusty Rhodes is your dad. You got to give the title to your mum. Listen, just shut your mouth.
It's enough, okay? No one really enjoys seeing you cry on television. But if you're going to do it, at least just get it over and done with, because you're going to be one of the more boring champions afterwards. But for the next year's main event, they could do a Cena Rock 1 year build-up.
It's Rock Roman. It's Rock.
That's what I'm saying. They could do the 1 year build-up.
I don't know. Apparently, The Rock's got to film a movie from May to August. It'll be perfect timing going into WrestleMania. But look, that wraps us up for the prime time this week. Make sure you subscribe to @Kairouz Bros on YouTube. Stay tuned for our coverage at WrestleMania, at Tim Zoo, and at UFC 300. We'll be everywhere. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, subscribe.